All right. So, as you guys know, we've been talking about it. I have been pushed, prodded by Sean to get into a product category that we were looking at. And we've looked at it for probably about a year and a half. We're finally doing it. So, we are going to be launching our new product. It's really kind of an entire new company a week from now. And one of the things that, as we were thinking about, hey, how do we do this launch? We're going to do something pretty special. I'm going to walk through the entire thought process of what we're doing and why we're doing it, because it is like a new category, not just like another product line, both on the pod and in the newsletter. So if you're not subscribed to the Operators newsletter, you want to get subscribed. We're going to do something really special for the community that everybody who is a part of the newsletter is going to have an opportunity as a gift and a thank you to our community to be able to try our new product very, very inexpensively. We're thinking for $1 potentially. So we're doing something as a give back to the community, but in order to be a part of it, you have to be a part of the Operators newsletter. So if you haven't yet, go to 9operators.com and sign up. It has like an 80% open rate. I've gotten so much good feedback about this newsletter. Every week we're giving away lots of alpha about how to run a consumer brand, how to run a digital business. So get signed up, and here in about a week, you'll have an opportunity to hear more about the product that we're launching and get a special offer.
All the pressure's on Sean right now. I'm not even worried about you,
If
Mike.
this fails, I direct it all at Sean Frank. And if it succeeds, it's all because of my brilliant leadership.
That's
No,
100% what I was
no.
thinking.
Dude, it's like when there's like a celebrity from a hometown, like that success is all of ours. Okay, the failure is exactly Mike's. So
That's right.
That's the way
That's
we're gonna
right.
do this.
I hear you. Well, we will see who's more effective in pushing the blame in the weeks ahead. But actually, it's legitimately, we think, a great idea. I've been telling people if I'm wrong about this, I'm the most wrong I've ever been about something in business. So we'll see. I will very publicly fail if this thing doesn't work.
Well, we've all seen the packaging and the samples, so I think I'm so curious.
I'm super pumped about this. It's such a natural extension. It's great when you can find the right natural extension to your current business. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm super pumped about it.
All right. So go sign up, guys. Be a part of the newsletter. Be the first to hear.
This better work.
Guys, I've triple mortgaged my house. I need you to go to 9operators.com and sign up.
Dude, if it works, I get options, I get some shares, I get those courtside tickets. So
Perfect.
Please buy these things, man, for my financial future.
It's so easy to talk about like how hard it is to build like proper ERP.
It's such a conundrum too, because usually implementing an ERP is so difficult. We're starting a new, vertical, and as we're starting it, one of the questions we're asking at the beginning actually is, when do we need to integrate with an ERP? When do we need to start thinking this way? Because it was so incredibly painful when we finally did it with Simple Modern. And so usually the integrations on these things are just an absolute bear because, like you said, Matt, it's just a mess usually.
Well, it's also the funny thing is there's been multiple times in our business history where we actually weigh the decision to do something based on the level of difficulty to make it work with existing integrations.
That's where it's really frustrating
stupid?
when accounting is stopping you from selling things.
Yeah.
And those are the things that'll just drive you crazy as an entrepreneur.
I have literally lost my shit because of this type of stuff. We're sorry, we're not doing it for what reason? It's like, oh, it's because integrations is going to take forever. I'm like, this is why I don't want to own a company anymore.
Yeah. So what do you guys think the highest score you could give to a NetSuite is? I think both you guys are at NetSuite. What's the highest score you could possibly give them? 1 to 5.
1 to 5?
It's really hard to get above probably the high threes, 3
Yeah.
point something. The other problem with it, Sean, is that like you can't just implement NetSuite. Usually you have to go and get all of these extra contractors. This entire ecosystem of people around NetSuite just to help build integrations. And the problem with that is that the mileage really varies there and the quality level really varies there. That was actually where we had some of our problem, is that we hired a contractor and we spent a whole bunch of money. They were supposed to be building integrations. only for us to get integrations that sucked where we had to go back and redo them ourselves internally over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's not even just the NetSuite thing, although like I'm not like going to give it a, a 5 out of 5 or anything, but it's so complicated and you need so many other contractors that really drags down the score as well.
I think it's like I think it's ERP is like telcos, Sean. Like they're basically in the business of managing dissatisfaction because they're all so difficult to use.
Yeah, like so famously, what Matt's referencing is that Comcast has like 10% of people like Comcast. Yet it's $100 billion a year business, right? It's
Right.
because like it's
Like nobody likes their telco provider. Like when was the last time you're like, man, I love AT&T. What a great day to be on AT&T.
right. So
Said nobody.
we just released Sean's vendor list where I give 1 to 5 scores to everyone that we currently engage with. Fulfill, my ERP of choice, I give them a 4 out of 5 stars, and they were like, if you do not know about ERPs, maybe that you'd be bummed out by getting a 4 out of 5 stars.
That's an incredible score.
Yeah, I think the theoretical limit for an ERP should be a 3. Nobody is happy with it. It is like going to the dentist. It's like even if you have the best dentist on earth, even if they're so kind and so sweet, they're still gonna put a drill in your mouth. You know what I mean? Like that is the ERP business. So if you're looking for a 4 out of 5 ERP, which if you grade on a curve is like a 1 billion out of 10 ERP, check out Fulfill.
Okay, welcome back, operators. It's episode 84. Oh my God, 84 episodes already. It's Monday, November 25th. That is the Monday of Black Friday week. And if you're listening to this is pretty much the biggest week of the year for like 90% of you. Maybe there's some health folks, or there's an exception in there. But we're going to talk kind of where we're all at as brands, what we're thinking about, what we're working on. We're going to drop some last minute tips for you guys to either look at, implement, or think about for the next time. And we're going to share some of our biggest nightmares from this week in the past. Which is always fun to just listen to other people suffer. So hopefully you enjoy this one. As always, thank you to Northbeam, Fulfill, and Postscript. Without them, show doesn't happen. That's how the bills get paid. Let's get into it. Episode 84. All right. So it is Monday, the week of, do we call this the week of Thanksgiving, the week of Black Friday? If you're a consumer, you 3 guys are American. I don't really care about your Thanksgiving because it's not mine. Is this Thanksgiving week, or are you like, nah, man, this is Black Friday week?
Well, it depends if you're an e-com bro or lass or not. This is for most normal people, this is Thanksgiving week. But for us losers, it's BFCM.
So we have a we have a European who does a lot of our SEM buying. So Google, YouTube, whatever else. Sales really picked up last Friday. And he asked us, he's like, well, maybe people think today's Thanksgiving. Like because he's European, he has no idea what Thanksgiving is. He's like, yeah, maybe Americans just forgot. And today they think is Thanksgiving. So that's why sales are so good. And it's like, no, man, like, it's like Christmas over here. People know exactly when Thanksgiving is, but it was very, very funny and kind of gives you an idea of like how it's not a global holiday. It is not Christmas. It is very much an American thing.
No, and we notice every year up here that people just start shopping about a week out from American Thanksgiving. It's always a week out. It doesn't matter when Black Friday, like Thanksgiving is for you guys. It's like a week out. That's when everything starts to pick up. Our retail stores. I had to go to Best Buy this weekend to get my kid a mouse for Minecraft because like you need a mouse apparently. I don't know. What a shit show. Like there's so many people out shopping. I'm like, I think it's insane.
Did you happen to pick up a Ridge wallet at Best Buy when you were there?
They're not here, Sean. You got to get on that,
dude. It's like a different company.
It is.
Yeah. So there's like 600 American stores and like 100 Canadian stores, but I think they're ran separately. I don't think they're the same company, which is weird.
They are different. We have our own like Best Buy HQ in Vancouver, but the stores are like, they look identical. So Sean, whatever you're doing in the States, it's going to slot in. Like I've been into a number of Best Buys in the US, like it's the same damn store. So you'll slot in just fine. So Sean, you mentioned last Thursday, Friday, things started to pick up. What how do you prep your team? Like, what are you expecting now from then until Black Friday? And then how are you managing things day to day, like in your seat? Maybe Sean, you start. I'd be curious, Jason and Mike, how you guys are thinking of things too this week, because everybody's business here is so different this week.
Yeah. What am I expecting? So this is being recorded on Monday. It's coming out on Wednesday. And the way we measure Black Friday is basically Wednesday to Wednesday, right? So you have the day of Thanksgiving, which is typically huge, Black Friday through Cyber Monday. And I was telling the team that like we will either do somewhere between 10 and $50 million that week. So we have absolutely no idea and no expectations of what's going to happen. Um, we've seen sales really pick up basically starting the 15th. So like what we're looking at right now is day over day comps. I think today is comping maybe Black Friday itself a year ago if you don't adjust for day of the week and just look date for date. So like today we're going to miss, year over year obviously, but every other day we were beating. So it's really late in the year, which is scary and hard, and for a lot of different reasons. Like a lot of your revenue just gets compressed. But it seems like for the past week, people have been showing up and purchasing, which has been awesome for me. I was texting the group. I'm like, yeah, it's officially like the month of $1 million days. Between now and the end of the year, it's like it's bad if we're not getting $1 million days under our belt. But yeah, I have no idea what to expect the next week. I mean, luckily, I run a different operation than you do, Matt, and you do, Jason, and you do, Mike. I do not manage my own 3PL, so I send them pizzas. We have like a $10 or $20,000 bonus pool if they clear the queues every single day. That everyone who works on it gets $100, stuff like that. Luckily, we have Fulfill like fully integrated and set up, so I know exactly where inventory is and who it's being shipped to, and like we have all these internal shipments going around. The business is just really really complex. So luckily we have Fulfill like as an ERP fully integrated, so I don't have to think about any of that. Mostly what I do this week is just cheerlead, make sure people have what they need, credit cards are paid. That's probably the biggest deal, and this is so stupid, but uh, our credit card gets paid the 28th. That's Thanksgiving this year. So I had to just make sure that like we prepaid it and then I had enough bank money in the bank to when it charges again, because I do not want credit cards to go down. That's like been most of my frustration. But yeah, luckily don't do my own wholesaling. Sales are good. Got Fulfilled to manage the whole thing. Life's on easy mode. Kicking it back to Mike or Matt.
I was going to say, Mike, tell us, I would say you're the most diverse retailer in this group, like in terms of channel mix. Jason and I are on Team Costco. So Mike, how does this week change much, or is this week set so far in advance for you guys with your channel strategy that like it's just a different animal than what Sean is talking about?
Yeah, it's totally different, actually. I kind of miss it. This is the dopamine week. This is the pound the dashboards, watch the minute by minutes. And I remember, I mean, some of my best memories of running the company are Black Fridays, Cyber Mondays, where you're just, you're refreshing every 5 minutes, and you can't believe how fast the sales are coming in. But we're a really heavily wholesale business. If you think about the fact that Amazon is a wholesale account for us now, that means that something like 85% of our business is wholesale, which means that you actually don't sell, like, you don't quote unquote sell, but like anything. I mean, like 15% or maybe whatever our website is of our business happens, and we're actually selling that. But the rest of it's actually our partners selling stuff they've already bought from us, that we've already cleared the transactions. So, and it's a lot more predictable. So I've talked about this before, but in mass retail, like take a Target. Target has 1,900 stores, and you've got a profile of what's going on leading up to Black Friday. So unless you're doing something really special with discounting, like you pretty much know what's going to happen, or plus or minus 5 or 7%. Whereas with ecom, it can be a lot more variable. Amazon's the same way. When we were 3P, if you ran deals on Amazon, it was kind of like, I don't know, it's somewhere between here and here. And it's a really big freaking range, like Sean was talking about. But what we have seen it with 1P, when we run deals, they'll come out beforehand and they'll say, hey, here's, we think you're going to move 100,000 units in this deal or something. And it's actually been really good estimates. And my guess is it's because, they're the puppet master, right? They control the traffic. And so they can kind of deterministically tell, the site, where to send people and how to direct people. I'm not exactly sure how all that works, other than that they're generally plus or minus 10%. So it's a lot lower pressure. It is funny that this week, just a funny story of something that happened to us on Monday of last week, I guess. We One of the devs on our team is like, "Hey guys, this is a really weird one. I have no idea how I'm getting this, but in the cart, if I click on any of the hyperlinks in the cart other than proceed, it takes me to Jimmy Chong's marijuana." And apparently somebody in our support, I mean, this guy Shopify got involved. It was like everybody's like, "How the hell did they do this?" Because they inserted a line into the liquid code, and we were trying to figure out, hey, was one of our partners compromised? Like, what happened here? And it turned out that what had happened is one of our customer support people, like, there was a support email that was like, "Hey, I'm having an issue. Here are the images of my issue." And they clicked the hyperlink, and boom, it got whoever, it was a phishing, and whoever was on the other side of that link was able to get into our liquid and insert it. Although I'm like, why they did it that way? There's so many better ways to use that access than the way that they did. But maybe it's some pothead that doesn't have a better idea. I don't know. But anyway, so that was funny, and I think it reminds me of the stress of just, things can't go wrong. Like Sean said, a credit card can't go down. We've had that happen with Amazon before, where a credit card gets paused on Black Friday, and you're like, man, that cost us $50,000 in sales. Or when you're running a deal on Amazon, and it's like it stalls out on page 2 and it doesn't get to page 1, and so you do 50% of what you think you're going to do. Or the opposite, it jumps up to the top spot on page 1 and you do 150%. And you're like, oh, we just blew up our supply chain. So I miss the dopamine. I don't miss the stress. It's generally pretty laid back. The cake's already baked by this point.
So, Mike, can I just a real quick question on that? When do you guys recognize your sort of like holiday revenue then? If 85% of it's like in channel, what month of the year is your big like? There's my holiday bump.
Yeah, I mean, it's still coming through in October and November. Like, it's probably just stepped forward about 30 days, I would
Okay.
guess. But sometimes that leads to our forecast being a little bit wonky. Like, in general, our team has gotten really good at forecasting, but sometimes the forecasting doesn't look very good because the timing of it ends up being different. So Amazon might have a big miss in December, but it's because they just ordered crazy heavy in October, right? And October was a blowout. So you kind of have to stretch out the time periods of how you do comps. But we still look at point of sale. I mean, point of sale ultimately drives ordering, because people aren't going to keep ordering if they're not selling through it. So you still care about the point of sale. It's just a lot less volatile, I think, is the way that I would say it.
And Jason, you're different, right? Because I mean, you're so obviously D2C and Amazon, but your Costco Roadshow, that's your inventory. So
Yeah.
everything selling is like, can you unpack that for people?
Yeah, we get daily sales updates from Costco because we're in the roadshow. And so we recognize everything essentially on the day it was sold. But we talked about a lot here. There's a lot of things that I can go into with BFCM coming up. We're talking about fulfillment and forecasting, and it's interesting to comment about credit cards. Let me hit on a few things. First of all, forecasting is hard, like really hard, especially for we're not running some SaaS companies. Those are a little bit easier to forecast. Like every year, no matter how great or how poorly we do, our forecast is wrong. It's like it's so frustrating. Um, many times we've under forecasted. Last year, we forecasted like really, really big, and actually there's always miscommunications in an organization. Like we're always saying this where we are, that our biggest issue at the company is communication, and that's why good communication is super important right now. Even though a lot of the table is already set, um, communication is really important. And also, you know what I realized? A lot of finger pointing goes on when things aren't perfect. And it's like, people, I don't care who did what right now. What we need to do is focus on whatever the problem is, getting it fixed, or whatever we need to focus on. It's just like moving forward. So I don't care if this team messed something up or that team messed something up. It's like it's silly. So we had our numbers. I've been saying all year that my hope is that the consumer shows up in the holidays, because I think the year has been soft. I think we can all agree it's been a little soft. And so far, we're seeing the consumer show up. Like, we had absolutely a monster weekend. The funny thing is, I don't even I don't even know what to compare to anymore, because we're in so many geographies now. It's like, thankfully, our data warehouse is going to solve this for us. It's already starting to solve it, actually. But still, like, even knowing where things are, it's like I'm just seeing amazing numbers, but I have really nothing to compare it against, because we have so many different. Like Sean was talking about comparing this day versus that day last year, but if it's a weekend, or there's just lots of, you've got to be careful with the comparisons you make. But yeah, forecasting really freaking hard, even where our business is pretty simple. But like Sean said, you just have no idea who's going to show up, like from Thanksgiving through Monday. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch how we manage things. A few years ago, when we were very heavily reliant on agencies, and we've worked with great agencies, and we still work with basically all of our agencies. One of them is Homestead, and with Homestead, Niles, our COO, we sat down with Zach and Riley, and we did this pacing doc for our spend. It started out with kind of a spreadsheet that I call the sweet spot, when we look at MER and sales, and where do we want to dial into for the maximum profit dollars, right? So we set that up, and um, that's what dictates spend decisions, based on that sweet spot matrix. And then underneath the sweet spot matrix is the pacing doc. And we're spending across so many channels now that we have this pacing doc. And so we have a daily BFCM stand up, and we don't do daily stand ups. I know a lot of companies do daily stand ups or weekly stand ups. We don't do them, but except during this time where we're looking at it, we're looking at pacing, and we're looking at stock, um, and we're trying to make decisions. We had a couple of things go out of stock really early, just based on timing of POs that didn't get to us in time, which was frustrating. But like, that's always going to happen. And then we had massive out of stocks in the UK and EU, because we just like way under projected what we were going to do there. And the numbers are just absolutely bananas. I think we had our borderline first $1 million day in the UK, when we launched this year, which was insane. A couple more things on the list that you guys just went through. So on the credit cards going down, yeah, man, that's a big one. And it's pretty funny that we're sitting here, Sean's the CEO, I'm the president, and we're like worried about just our credit card going down and not being able to spend. We go on invoicing with Meta this time of year, because we just spend so much money. And so we have credit with Meta. They get our financials, and they're really good to us about that, because we're a very big spender. Um, and then finally, with respect to fulfillment and operations, we made a massive change in like September. And this was very risky. Um, but Niles, our COO, said that he will allow me to kill him if this goes wrong. We basically had worked with a bunch of 3PLs, but we had to redo our entire network. We have our own warehouse, but in October 22, we just grew out of it, and now we probably handle, I don't know, 20% of our own fulfillment. And we've worked with a variety of 3PLs, but we just realized that at our scale, there's a lot of room to optimize cost. And so we really rebooted our 3PL network. And there was also some issues because we were shipping from California to other states, which you should never do. Never do that. um, so we totally rebooted. We went to a really large national 3PL, and that so far is working pretty well. I'll find out, get the update today, because today is going to be like the most stressed day on the system after a very big weekend. But we did this, and we just ran everything through Fulfill, and there's been no issues regarding the data, regarding booking, all that stuff. Fulfill is essentially our operations back end. And like so far it's worked incredibly well. Really, there's so many things this year that I really don't have to think about because we have the right systems in place. And Fulfill is a good one. So I'm hoping that over the next week, we're just sort of looking at spend numbers every day, and then we're just going and chilling and watching the numbers, and it's fun to refresh Shopify.
Jason, I wanna just continue to expand off of Phil. Like you said, there's a lot we can unpack here, but you brought up the order management system side of Fulfill. And if you guys remember, in October, I had to fly to my wholesale 3PL and basically perform open heart surgery. Like, it's bad when the CEO of an organization is in your 3PL. Like, 3PLs hate that. Everybody hates that. I was there picking orders. I was there finding fucking inventory. I was there rekitting products that are about to go out. That was directly because that 3PL never got set up with Fulfill, right? That is like the cardinal rule I learned is that if you have an ERP, if you have a warehouse management system, if you have an order management system, do not bring on new vendors who do not work with that system, right? Or say that they can, right? No, show me live clients that have this integration. So that warehouse, they're trying their best. There's a long story there. I don't think we unpacked it on the pod, but basically I was in a 3PL. They went bankrupt. They got bought by somebody who's trying to unfuck it, but it was entirely fucked. I do not have those issues right now in all my other warehouses. And I'm in like 10 or 12 fucking warehouses. I'm in more warehouses than any of you guys, for not for good reasons. I just launched a new Canadian one for whatever reason. All of those work seamlessly and beautifully because of like the Fulfill. So if you're going to have an ERP, if you're going to have an order management system, if you're going to have a WMS, you have to commit. It is a 100% pie. You do not get to bring on new vendors who do not fit in there, or your life will be pain. So just want to talk about that with you, Jason. Also, there's no way Roadshow, and I know you love it. I know like you guys have a lot of loyalty to Costco for everything. Bro, I know your numbers. There's no way that Roadshow is more than 5% of your revenue at this point. I mean, I would say 1% of your revenue. You'd have to be fucking throwing pans at every person who walked in there for it to make a meaningful difference. So
Sean, I'm gonna since you mentioned it, I'm gonna correct you. It's definitely double-digit percentage. I'm just gonna say that. And we have
Dude, Roadshow's insane.
we have an incredible roadshow operation. You got to remember that that's where the company started. It was always meant to be D2C when we started selling pans in 2016, but Costco just took off like wildfire from the beginning. We have over 100 sales reps. We ship 5 pallets of cookware to 120 Costcos in and out a month. If our sales reps sell out, we replenish mid-show. We cross ship if we have to. Like, this is it sounds like an operational nightmare. And look, we have like 6, 7, 8 people that all they do is Costco ops. But it's a very, very specific niche. And luckily, Danny and Cole grew up in that. They're like the masters of the roadshow, and they could do that stuff in their sleep.
you're telling me that you have $1 million roadshow days?
In aggregate, probably.
At the top, we definitely have like 500K roadshow days.
Man, yeah, I mean, we're talking about the UK market by itself doing $1 million a day for you guys, right? Like a tiny market a fraction of the US, and I'm like, God damn, Roadshow sounds so hard, but I guess it's meaningful. All right.
Sean, I think you can't discount the awareness that Roadshow brings either. Like awareness and trust is nuts, right? Like there's just, dude, like when was the last time you were in a Costco, Sean?
Oh, never. I don't.
Right. You need to understand the volume of people and the amount of money they spend every time they're in there. This is a really good quality customer. And when you have a product that demos well, which Hexclad does, it's just like it's the best. It's great ad impressions is how I look at it. Like these are really high quality ad impressions. It's like they're just seeing a DR ad every time they walk by this booth, but it's in person and they're talking to it. They're talking to the ad, so they don't buy then, they're going to buy somewhere else. So the whole machine is just like Costco Roadshow is just an incredible place to build a brand.
It's been a major billboard for us for years, and because so many people walk by. So there's that. Like we don't really quantify that, although we have been doing some analysis on how Roadshow affects online sales and vice versa. All this stuff is really kind of guessing, educated guesswork. But then again,
Yeah.
all forecasting and all modeling is educated guesswork. It's interesting.
All right, let's take a quick break and we're going to thank our sponsor, Postscript. Okay, here's what I want to talk about. There's been this trend in e-commerce where we're trying to get to like all-in-one solutions. So like SMS, email, everything's in one place. And I think there's a bunch of weird arguments for this. I think this is all BS. Like I would rather have a solution that is like point built and is great for that one thing. This is why I like Postscript. This is why we use Postscript. They do SMS. They do it really freaking well, right? And I hate to say I told you so, but a lot of brands have gone to like the all-in-one thing to try to integrate email and SMS, and they've just moved back. And they do it for a bunch of reasons. Oh, it's easier for attribution. It's easier on my marketing team to log into one place. I think that's all BS. Look, the reason we like Postscript is all they think about, they eat and breathe SMS, which means my team is constantly getting access to new features before anybody else. They're actually consulting with us and helping us get better at SMS. I think this email and SMS need to be integrated to make SMS more effective is a lie. The reality is most of us aren't sending enough email and most of us aren't sending enough SMS. So trying to like trigger one off the other is likely just a waste of time. And I don't know too many brands personally who can tell me straight faced that this has been a big benefit to them. So in my view and my experience, like the reason we like having Postscript as a sponsor is because we use it and it works really well. And the team is great. Their support's awesome. Their pricing is awesome. So that's my shout out to Postscript. It's wicked to have them as a sponsor for the pod. Let's get back to the show.
Okay, so we talked about fulfillment, right? And like some of the challenges there, right? I think we're all diving into that issue. My recommendation, buy everybody pizza. Make sure you have something like Fulfill set up. Have cash bonuses for anyone working the line. And like that's all for 3PL work. If you have internal teams, you're doing that anyway. You're buying lunch. Yeah, you're doing that type of stuff. But I think you should go above and beyond to make sure your 3PL likes you as a client. A classic story is I was in the same 3PL as a thing called Uni, which is like a pizza oven.
Yeah.
And nobody would work that line because those fucking pizza ovens were like 50 fucking pounds. Like nobody wants to pick those up, right? So everyone was begging to work on the Ridge business because it's a lot easier. It's backbreaking work. So just make sure you show up, buy everybody pizza, be cool, be chill, and your stuff will be picked first and better than everybody else. The second thing you talked about was forecasting. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Take it away.
Well, I was just going to say that I think being likable is such a cheat code in business because what happens is inevitably, whether it's a retail partner or a manufacturing partner or a 3PL, there's a point where push comes to shove and multiple people want something, but only one can get it. Who gets it? The most liked. Unless the economics are overwhelming that you pick one option, kind of, let's say economics are relatively similar, it's always going to be the person that's the most liked that's going to get that preference. One example of this that's relevant to all of the tariffs. If the tariffs come down and they're China specific, a lot of these manufacturers, what they're doing is they're creating manufacturing that's in Thailand or Cambodia or whatever else, but there's not enough capacity, right? Who's going to get those orders? That's right. The most likable, the most preferred client. And so I think being kind, being likable is one of those things where it's the right human thing to do, but it comes back 100-fold in times and places that you would never expect, because there are just going to be points where people are being asked to do more things than they're able to do, and they have to prioritize, and they prioritize based on who they like.
Totally.
Sean, do you want to? I think you're going to talk about forecasting. This is an interesting one this year. I think we've all kind of touched on it, but Black Friday being super late in the month, Cyber Monday's in December. How are, I mean, you're doing the day over day comps, I'm assuming manually, Sean, but like when you were planning your budgets this year, like October, November, December, Q4, have you, does the way that you talk to your team and actually budget, does it change in a year like this? Where like you're basically a week off, you have a week less holiday?
Yeah. Our plan is for November to be flat year over year, the true month. So we're losing Cyber Monday, right? So that means November has to be bigger every single day to make up for that Cyber Monday loss. But our plan is let's have November be flat year over year, spending less money. So right now, what we're seeing is year over year, we are more efficient. Every marketing dollar is going further, right? Maybe that's because we're better returning customers. Maybe it's the customers more willing to buy post-election. Who the fuck knows? But we're more efficient year over year. Maybe we have better deals, better offers, better products, right? Maybe there's better pizza. Who knows? We are more efficient year over year, and sales look to be, beating year over year. So even with the loss of Cyber Monday, we'll probably be above being flat. And then December, we think it just should be nuts, right? Like I made the joke that like I literally told the team yesterday, we'll do somewhere between $10 and $50 million in the next 7 days. Like, I don't fucking know. Something like that will happen.
Like a Bitcoin forecast.
Yeah. And really, it's all up in the air. I keep telling the team, it just doesn't matter what happened up until last week, right? Like, we had quarters we were up, we had quarters we were flat. It just does not matter until these next 6 weeks. It's make or break for the entire year, right? I'll either get to $200 million or I won't. It's like it happens in the next 6 weeks. So fingers crossed. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you guys want to? I got a fun one for you. Do you want to talk nightmares? Since we talked about firefighting in this week, and I can start. I'll kick you off and give you guys a chance to think about like your biggest shit show fire that you've had to deal with. Either it's Black Friday this week or like after. Here's a great one for you. I'm reliving this nightmare right now. So 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago, Canada Post goes on strike. And I'm newly invested in Pillacase at this time, and we are ripping. So like the company is growing like 700% year over year. Canada Post goes on strike. So up here, that's like our USPS, except FedEx and UPS in our country are not competitive. So like if we have to switch from Canada Post to one of them, like our pricing is just stupid. And then the other problem that we have for any domestic ordering is Canada Post is the only carrier that delivers to rural areas. So there's nobody else that goes out to these places and delivers to like a good chunk of the country. So they did this again 2 weeks ago. Canada Post goes on strike. The first time this happened, guys, I had to I think we had to inject like $400,000 or $500,000 into the company because we were bleeding so much cash because of this one issue. And our customers were losing their shit because like globally, people don't know that Canada Post is on strike. Why would you? This is now going on again. We've actually, Jason talked about switching in September. We had to change our entire carrier setup last week. And we're now doing what's called zone skipping. So we're taking inventory that's got to go out, putting it on trucks, driving it to the US, and injecting it into the American system because the Canadian one is down.
Damn. And you're far from the US border. So
2 hours.
Okay. I thought it'd be worse because I know you're 4 hours from Vancouver. So what?
Yeah, but straight down from me is not bad. But there's companies that do this here now. This is how much of a disaster this turns into, that like zone skipping, where you just like take it out of the Canadian system in general, completely normal. You know, the win though is it's going to turn out to be like 30% cheaper than shipping with Canada Post by just like bringing it to the States.
Yeah. We do. We use something called SCI that does injection via Canada. So like our Northeast is covered by our Toronto node, basically. But yeah, man.
So fun.
Canada seems like a really hard place to be right now, and I wish you guys nothing but the best. You know, Mike.
Winter strikes.
Yeah.
Whoa, a great government, awesome government in Canada. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's a
The
word for it.
GDP chart on Canada versus the US when Trudeau took over.
Dude, it's so depressing.
If I was Canadian, I would be rioting.
We are.
Yeah. There's a lot of riots going on in Quebec. The average Canadian GDP per capita, or whatever, is less than West Virginia. Like they are poorer than West Virginia. It's crazy, man. And real estate's so fucking expensive. But Mike, I want to ask you, you talked about this fucking 50 minutes ago. So much of your business is wholesale and so much of your business is like Q4 heavy POs. Bro, what is your cash flow management? Because I have $4 million in accounts
There's
receivable
Mike's
right
nightmare.
Like,
yeah, it's nuts. I mean, like I think I'll have to look, but I mean, there's points where we have tens of millions of dollars in receivables because you're filling all these orders and it's all wholesale. And this is where I've talked about it before. We talked about it during the debt episode. You have to get some kind of an asset-backed lending, factoring kind of solution when you get heavily wholesale, because most retailers at this point are going to basically strong arm you into a 90-day payment terms. And if you've got, I mean, you just think about it, like when you're at our scale, like let's say you're running at whatever 30 points of gross margins and you're doing 200 million in revenue, then that means you're doing 100 and probably a little bit less than that. I mean, our gross margins are probably a little bit higher, but it's like you're doing $130 million in business or something, $140 million in kind of business, and you look at, okay, how much of that's happening in Q4. Anyway, it ends up being just a lot. And so we have here's a good way to describe it. We have a $50 million revolver, and we used a lot of cash to where a lot of the year we were at zero, but I think that revolver might be at 20 or $30 million right now. It swells way up and then it goes back down to zero when you get out of kind of these surge periods. We have another one around back to school.
Yeah, man. So that's, I mean, not Black Friday specific, but just something I'm fascinated by.
That's a decent sized revolver too for a company your size, because that's what we have. We're bigger than you guys, but we also don't have the wholesale exposure that you do per se.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
nailing it, Jason. It's just because we have collateral that banks love to loan against.
Yeah.
Our collateral is receivables from AAA rated multinational corporations. If
Yeah, you need
Walmart
that.
isn't paying its receivables, then the apocalypse is here. And so Walmart, Target, Amazon, these people are, Costco, these people are going to pay their bills. And so to quote Dumb and Dumber, that's an IOU. It's as good as cash, but it really is when it's coming from the major retailers. And so as a result, like Jason said, we've got a lending facility that's really pretty enormous. I mean, there's probably some public companies that have lending facilities that look like that, but it's because of the quality of the collateral that we're able to use.
Yeah, because you guys are ABL, we're pure cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
But we just don't, we don't have the receivables that you do because we're very Shopify dependent, and Costco pays us a lot faster than a lot of these other retailers pay. You can negotiate that if you want. So that's super cool, very impressive.
Well, and I think you asked it earlier, Matt, but it is worth kind of emphasizing this, that as a CEO, what you're trying to do is de-risk your business. And anytime you have these periods, if you have any period in your business where it's like, this has to go well, that translates to you've got risk, you've got significant risk. And you asked, hey, what's your biggest horror story? Well, my biggest horror story, which I've shared on here before, is I woke up the Monday of Black Friday week and my Amazon account was suspended in 2017. We had spent every dollar that we had to buy inventory to go as big as we could. Amazon was 95% of our business. So we did not have the same kind of lending facility. We were exceptionally dependent on it. And Black Friday, the holidays, it had to go well for us. It had to. It was existentially important to the business. And there was about a 48-hour period where it wasn't even clear that we were going to be able to sell. And it seemed outside of our control. And that experience was so seminal that I just realized we have to develop a wholesale side of the business. We have to get off of the dependency of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because sometimes things will happen that you can't control. And so, compared to all three of you, I have a smaller D2C business during this period, but I like that. Like I love being able to kind of live vicariously through you guys and the huge swells that you see during this week. But I think I like it even better that I can sleep really well and that I don't have. I mean, this Monday is the 7-year anniversary of one of the most stressful days of my life. How often can you say that? Like
That
it's
is
this
incredible.
exact.
That is an incredible story. That couldn't be more stressful,
It's
by
so
the
bad.
way. And and the it's kudos for that like incredible diversification that you've built in that business is just so sustainable now. We actually were in a similar spot with Costco at the pandemic. And this isn't the nightmare situation because this is really kind of like just when I joined, and to be fair, the decision was already made. But Costco shut down the Roadshow in April 2020 because of COVID. They wanted to just be, food and whatever, right, for the pandemic. And so we had an online sales business, but Costco was in 2019 was like 80% of our business, and I wasn't on board full time, but I was an advisor back then. And when pandemic hit, it was like, okay, well, we got all this inventory, we got some cash in the bank, and we're not selling in Costco. So what do we do? And Danny and Cole, they made the right call. They were like, well, we got to spend more on ads and we got to sell some of this inventory. Duh. Right. But like that was real risk to take at the time when you think about it, because it was an unproven channel. I think the best month prior to that was December of 2019, where the company did like 1 million online. And so that was like a huge bet that if it wasn't, not everyone makes that bet. And if it wasn't for the fact that Danny and Cole were not risk averse people. They were risk seeking people. To like this would have never happened. But the other the nightmare on my watch. Well, there are a couple of nightmares. One is you could very easily run out of money, as we've been talking about with all this stuff. And there were times like in my early days where, also coming from a tech background, and not adequately like forecasting working capital needs could be a huge problem. So everyone needs to really be conservative about working capital needs. And we're talking about this even today in terms of how much stock we order, because stockouts suck. And it particularly in our business, because it's not fashion, it's not about colors, it's not about licensing some team's wallets or drink. It's just about like how much can we afford to buy and how much inventory do we want to carry on our balance sheet. I think I've heard Sean say in the past that he's got like a year's worth of inventory in certain SKUs. Is like there's no way we would do that. And it's really hard. And we've actually had, I remember my first couple of years in like 2020, 2021, even in 2022, when we were doing most of our own fulfillment, we were like waiting for containers to show up to get people product in time for Christmas. And we take that very seriously. Like we took people's money, telling people we'd get it to them in time for Christmas. And many times it's been an absolute tightrope to get those things out. And like Sean said about going to his 3PL and packing up stuff, like literally we've had the C-suite, VPs, everyone out in our warehouse taking, a container would show up from the port and literally would come off the container, stack a UPS label on it, and put it in the UPS like trailer that's sitting there. That's happened to us multiple times. And this year, it looks like in some respects we didn't order enough again, which is really frustrating. And it's like, do we need to just say, okay, we got to go the Sean route and just know that we need to overstock because we're leaving money on the table. We stocked out in the UK on the second, third day of our sale because the demand was like 10x what we forecasted. Like, how dumb am I? How dumb are we? Like, we couldn't get it within 10x. It's like, what do you do? But lots of learning there.
We absolutely use Northbeam, and me specifically, every day. I'm constantly in there building out reports. And I remember when we brought it on a couple years ago, and I got to meet Austin, who is the founder, and he is fabulous. And he was selling me on the idea of, not using in-platform and really using a separate platform as like our source of truth, which is what we needed. And I mean, it has been a deal breaker for us. It's helped us scale in areas and on platforms that we didn't even, weren't getting a good read on. And it's helped us optimize for our channels that we really had a lot of high spend on. And their team is great. My favorite part is taking the calls with them where they, dive deep into the insights, and they've always got really great information for us. So yeah, I love Northbeam. We wouldn't be where we are at today without them.
It is so tempting when you're in these huge surge periods to say, I got to grab every sale I possibly can, but they're still going to be there. Like people in the UK who can't get some of what they want now, they're just waiting. Like I don't think most of them are defecting to other brands. And you made a point indirectly that is just worth doubling and tripling down on, which is you're not money ahead if you burn down your supply chain to hit bigger numbers during the holiday surge. In fact, you're usually worse off because you're selling at lower margins. And so sometimes the best, most profitable thing, and this is counterintuitive, but the best, most profitable thing you can do for your business during the holidays is to pull back, because then your supply chain isn't a disaster in January. You're able to recognize those full margin sales. You never want to trade, sales at 30% gross margins for sales that would be 50 or 60% gross margins in January and February.
Well, also, grow for why? That's a question you have to ask yourself, right? Like, I'm actually pretty in favor of like, look, if the sun's shining, make hay. You know what I mean? Like, if people want to buy, hopefully you can fill that demand. But like Jason's business, I've watched it. He's had years he's grown 300%, right? And like his UK business is 10x projections right now, and that is a classic example of like we gotta like the caboose has to catch up to the front of this fucking train. I would slow the whole thing down and make sure like the actual it stays on the tracks, right? Because why like there's no difference in an investor's mind or in anybody's mind between 50% growth and 80% growth. Unless you're breaking 100, there's literally no difference. Like it's your best in class growth. That's what it falls into. And people have this idea that like they need to be growing 100 or 300 or 500% year over year or whatever. I'm like, no, when you're moving physical things across the world and borders and importing, like you will ruin your business trying to grow too fast. And the whole thing about being a lifestyle business, it's like, yeah, lifestyle, the first word is life. You got to make sure you stay alive because the quickest way to die is to grow too fast, right? You're going to die from just all the fucking problems. You don't even know how to run a business 5x your size. You have to keep up with the size of it. So yeah, it's very true. We got to stay aware of these things.
Sean, what about you, man? What's Black Friday, Cyber Monday? What's the worst thing that you've had to deal with in this week?
Dude, I mean, there's no one thing I can point to, and maybe I just memory hold every bad thing that's ever happened.
It's like a pregnancy. You forget.
Yeah. I've always just said that like I've never felt great about this business. Like I started working here when I remember the first $1 million week we've ever had, right? Probably 2018, being like, oh, this is crazy. And now it's like every day could be $1 million day. So there's not one thing where I'm like, oh, that totally broke. It's always sucked. Like warehouses are too slow, or like, credit cards get declined, and we have to figure something out in the middle of the night. Like that's all stuff that like just happens in this normal course of business. Um, I want to go to Mike's point about your Amazon account being suspended. That is nightmare scenario. That is like
That's
the worst
insane.
thing that could ever happen to you. And it is the best reason to build some sort of community for yourself in ecom. If you want to join Ecom Fuel or MDS or fucking our newsletter and Twitter and all of these different places, that is just another asset and resource. So if something breaks, you can beg for help. Because if you don't have that, you're just a name shooting an email off to the Jeff Bezos at email. That's what Mike did, right? Luckily, Jeff Bezos saw it. Luckily, his team responded. Luckily, they fucking saved
Not
the
on
day.
that one. Although I have been on the Jeff at Amazon.com. I have 2 different stories with that, but not in this particular case. In this particular case, it was going through the absolute labyrinth of people. Like Amazon's resolution team is basically on like some kind of black ops site where no one can reach them, or at least the way that they tell it. And so you have to work through a labyrinth of managers and customer support reps.
Yeah. So like, if that happened to Mike now, he would tweet it out and it would be resolved in 24 hours, right? Like that is the power of community. But yeah, look, I mean, knock on wood, I'm going to have an amazing Q4. It's going to be super easy. Hopefully customers show up and buy. They have been, which has been great. And because of things like Fulfill and I've probably invested $3 million in like accounting, ops, and software stacks, right? So like I have like a true finance team for the first time. I have a true ops team for the first time, right? I have like a bunch of just killers running that side of my business now. And I have tools like Fulfill, like piping data all over the place. I'm basically here as a cheerleader, like I've been saying. So feeling pretty good. Matt, your worst case scenario, or what are you thinking of? What are you working on?
I mean, we solved it. I was just like, I just didn't want to repeat there's 100,000 customers not getting orders. The last time we dealt with this whole thing, but it's solved, and we're in pretty good shape right now. I always get a little concerned because we manufacture so much on demand, in the case business that, this is the only time of year where we try to predict what's going to sell a little bit. So we start to pre-build certain SKUs in the sort of 30 days leading up to like the last 4 or 5 weeks of the year. We're usually get it like 80% right, but then I'm stuck with 20% wrong. So I always have this nervousness that like we've gotten it really wrong. And all of a sudden, not only do I have to fulfill a ton of stuff, but we also have to go and make it now too. Like that's the thing I'm scared most about is, we completely screw up and designs that we think will sell won't.
We
And then my
literally,
poor team.
as we're having this conversation, one of the things I'm managing on our Slack is that we had some wicked designs that just, took off. And as a result, we have a major oversell issue. This is one of the things, going back to Sean, what you were talking about with systems. Your systems are built for most of the year. And then during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, things that would have worked, 360 something days out of the year don't work those 2 days. Like we have little buffers of, like a little safety buffers. If we have 400 of a thing, it'll sell down to 25 and then it'll stop it. And so if you get a little bit of a run on a product, you can blow through that buffer before you even realize you violated it, because all the systems have to talk to each other. But I think a point that's worth making, because we're obviously all coming from the perspective of mature businesses that are maybe not mature in growth, but mature in terms of the systems and the operations. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, this is when all of the work you're doing the rest of the year shows up, and it takes years to build businesses that can handle the kind of volume that our businesses are handling. It is the cumulative compounding of years and years of building a team and building systems and building the right partnerships. And so that's part of the reason why we have sponsors for the pod, because you have to have great partnerships. It's not enough to have a great internal team. You have to have external partnerships that are really competent and good at what they do. But also, if you're hearing this and you're like, man, that's a long way from where I'm at today. So were we a few years ago. Like there have been Black Friday, Cyber Mondays where everything was on fire. you do this by playing the long game and thinking in terms of chunks of years, and not in terms of just blowing it out, for one period of 1 year.
Yeah, I like the Sean's remembering $1 million week thing. Like $1 million a month, $1 million week, $1 million day, then $1 million hour is sort of, that's how I frame everything in steps now in this world. It's like when you will always remember those moments. That's a great call, Mike. Boys, we've been at an hour. Any imparting wisdom? The people who are going to get this on a Wednesday, it's going to be 2 days before Black Friday. What's something you want to leave them with? Could be hope. Please give them hope.
I just want to remind people, like, now's not the time to point fingers at colleagues or subordinates or bosses. Like, now's the time to just focus and get it done. And like, there's a reason why the military has like postmortems after something, right? There's a reason why you got to postmortem that stuff. Don't dwell on it. It's just gonna hurt you. I don't care if Joe or Susie like made a big mistake and didn't own up to it. Like, deal with it later. Just now's the time to focus and get it done.
Sean, what about you, man?
Yeah, I got like a small checklist. So I'm about to monologue for a second. Mike just had a beautifully well worded thing about all of us like being at this mature state of our business. I just want to highlight things aren't perfect, right? Like I've never felt good about my business. I'm on Mike's website right now. He brought up the wicked problem. He has custom gifts. You can customize, bulk ordering for, your local trucking company or whatever else. We've had to shut that program down this year because we are not in a place to actually do these orders, right? I've probably turned down $1 million in business this year because in the past 6 or 8 weeks, I'm like, I don't have enough inventory. I don't have enough capacity at my personalization warehouse to get these things done. So it's not fucking all roses over in the operators world, right? There's always going to be these problems. It's just that our businesses are diversified enough where those things don't really hurt. But like Jason said, you're going into the busiest period ever. You're all on the same team. There's no reason to get mad at everybody. Here are some easy things you can do to make sure you have a successful Black Friday. It's probably too late by the time this goes out, but for the past month, we always have daily stand-ups. One of the stand-ups every week is everyone just reviewing the website. Everyone's on mobile. Everyone spends a full 30 minutes to an hour going through, clicking every product, looking for every fucking spelling mistake, making sure all links go where they're supposed to go, all add to carts work, all upsells work.
That is so smart, dude. That's
man.
why you guys are so good, because you focus on the little. It's like focusing on the little things, right? And they require extra focus.
Dude, and we have a channel called, in Slack called Team Ecom Issues, and every single person is expected to post 2 or 3 issues that they find. So it's 70, 80 people on stand up 1 day a week we're going to do it probably today or tomorrow again, being like, if anything's fucked up, you have to let us know. Right. So that is like an easy thing anybody can do. You have a team for a reason, like make them go on mobile only. We all look at desktops. All of our traffic comes from Instagram and TikTok. Those are mobile only apps. So do it on your cell phone. The next easy thing you can do is, it's probably too late probably not too late. It's definitely too late to integrate with any sort of fucking new warehouse, 3PL, whatever. But buy those teams some sort of snack, some sort of treat, give them some sort of, bonus, and think about if it's actually working or not. If do not go to an ERP or order management system until it's too painful not to, but then go on that journey. The third thing, send more emails and SMSs than you think. Okay. You should be sending a minimum of 1 per day for each of those for the next probably 12 days. That's the minimum, is 1 per day.
Yeah, this is the time to do it too, right? And sometimes people get annoyed. I get it from people like, oh, I hear from you too much and blah, blah, blah. Now's the time. I'm getting bombarded already. Like you're getting bombarded. We get yourself a really good SMS provider. Like we are working really, really closely with Postscript to make sure that everything is going well. And my phone's getting blown up, and I think anyone who thinks like, oh, we don't want to tarnish our brand, like, now's the time. I mean, I bought a golf bag from this company Vessel. I'm not buying a new golf bag for a while. And they're like blowing me up, and it's fucking annoying. But they're doing that for a reason.
Yeah, like, look, you should probably be sending 2 emails a day. Like that is the minimum requirement you need to be getting out the door. And you should send one thoughtful SMS every single day and make it different, make it weird. Postscript has a bunch of great case studies on this. They've been a great partner to the pod. Postscript has the data on this. And a lot of us are just like, hey, shop the sale. But like you can do gifts, you can do games, you can do jokes, you can do a bunch of different things because it's really just staying top of mind and making sure you close that transaction. Like I always talk about having like you have 3 months in a quarter and you need to have one, funnel clearing event every quarter. This is the funnel clearing event of the year. So it's like, none of us are Gucci. Okay. There is no line too far. Make sure you clear that funnel and so you can rebuild it next year. If you're going to make dollars, like now is the time to make dollars. So send 2 emails a day, a minimum of 1 SMS per day. So give your warehouse treats, do a website audit, send a lot of emails. That's like my takeaway, my big tips.
I got a proposal for next year. I think Black Friday, Cyber Monday on the Operators Pod should be sponsored by Red Bull and Domino's.
Hilarious.
We should do a live stream at some year on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, and just watch us in real time have to deal with the stuff that comes up.
No, dude, no.
No. Matt does not want to be on camera in Black Friday mode.
Not at that time. No.
One thing that's worth mentioning here, again, because we're running very scaled businesses, is that as your business gets bigger, the surface area of things that can go wrong gets bigger as well. And so stuff goes wrong. Like, listen, everybody has stuff go wrong. Every week, there's things that go wrong in my business where I'm like, I cannot believe that thing went wrong. How in the world did we not execute on that one thing? And it's easy for me to forget. It's because we're executing on 2,000 things a week. And if your surface area is really big, and even if your team is really good, there is still going to be stuff that really doesn't go the way that you want it to go. So it's interesting. I've always said this, that business is a game where the difficulty just adjusts where it's always hard. And so, like, it's still hard for me. There's still things that are frustrating. There's still oversells.
It doesn't get
There's
easier.
still orders
You just go faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike. I think that's very well said. You have to think about the acceptable error rate. Okay, so
yes,
you do 2,000 things. What percentage of things? If you did something 2,000 times, what percentage of times are you going to fuck up? Even something shooting a free throw or fucking whatever. Sometimes people drink water down the wrong pipe, okay? And you do that every day of your fucking life. There's an acceptable error rate for everything. And probably 1 out of 100 times you're going to fail. And if you do 2,000 things, you're talking about 20 failures a day. And that's just going to happen, right? Your team doesn't suck. They're not retarded. We're all doing our best. We're trying. And there's just some acceptable failure rate. So
love that. Love that.
Yes, sir. All right. Is that the pod?
I think that's the pod.
All right, champ.
Let's get after it.
Yeah, baby.
You made it. An amazing episode of the Operators Podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing to the newsletter. Thank you to fulfill the best sponsor on earth, Northbeam, Postscript. They're tied for 2 of the best sponsors on earth. Love them. Love what they do for us. Thank you for being here. Subscribe, like, share. Follow me on Twitter. Follow the other guys on Twitter. Talk to you later. Goodbye.